Hi there and welcome back to another one of my videos. My name is Paul Raven and today I will be doing a discussion surrounding critical analysis. Within this video I aim to cover the what, the when, the why and the most important part, the how, surrounding how you will go about critically analysing within your work and demonstrating this to your tutor as a means to developing your work quality and that of working towards higher grades within your assignments. Without further ado, let's get started. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing. Make sure that you click the bell for the notifications and leave comments down below. What is critical analysis? Using Bloom's taxonomy, let's take a look into what analysis is. Now, if you're unaware of what Bloom's taxonomy is, I would recommend that you go back and to watch my how to synthesize video. I'll post the card to this video in the top right hand corner so you can access that. Go back and rewatch that to gain a much finer grasp as to what Bloom's taxonomy is and its function within education. So analysis has been purported to be examining something in detail. Now this something may be or could be a theory or a model or a concept or an argument, or it may actually be a piece of research. It could be the methodology within somebody's research. Now we understand that analysis really involves that of examining something in detail and breaking it down. The next point here is, how do we put critical within critical analysis? Once we've broken something down, we need to really start to consider the reading process. And what I mean by that is that through the reading process of certain parts of your analysis, you will identify that there are both strengths and merits within these works and also flaws and weaknesses. As a writer, it's really important that you take the time to note these strengths and weaknesses down, or these flaws and merits, as you will need to articulate these to your reader or to your tutor, showing them that you have identified these strengths and areas for improvement, and also that you are acknowledging the fact that not all research or not all models, theories and concepts are clear cut, and that they do come with potential pitfalls, or on the flip side, potential merits that need to be considered further. This is really important, as this will identify to your reader or to your tutor that you are also being unbiased and you are being objective within your writing. When will I need to critically analyse within my work? As previously noted within my how to synthesize video, these types of higher order thinking skills can be employed at both the macro or at the paper level and both at the micro or at the paragraph level. You may be tasked with an assignment which asks you solely to critically analyse a specific journal article, or you may have been provided or assigned an essay or a report or a lab report, wherein which there will be relevant instances within those bodies of work where you'll be able to employ critical analysis at that paragraph level. Why should I be using critical analysis within my work? The question is, why wouldn't you want to demonstrate to your reader or your tutor that you can critically analyse? It's going to help with bolstering out the grades for one. It's also going to show your reader that you can go beyond mere summary and description, those lower order thinking skills, into the higher order thinking skills, whereby you're going to be able to read research, read the theories, the models, the concepts and the arguments to a greater level of depth, take away their benefits and limitations or their merits and drawbacks, and be able to articulate these to your reader, showing that you are able to demonstrate the positives and the drawbacks to a given research article, model, theory or concept. This is going to show that you are more unbiased and you're going to have a greater objectivity around your writing style. Furthermore, when looking into the grading boundaries and grading requirements to the higher education HE university-based assignments, some of the prerequisites that stop specific students getting into the 2-1 and the first class grading boundaries are the fact that the writing style is too descriptive and does not consider or demonstrate enough criticality. Now, by ensuring that you can influence your writing style in a positive way and to be able to take on board the reading process and to be able to draw out these positives and negatives, all these merits and drawbacks within research, you can then start to formulate that within your paragraphs, or if it's at the macro level, at the paper, and start to demonstrate to your tutor that you are thinking and writing both critically. Okay, so up to this point we've covered what critical analysis is, when you should be employing this within your work, and why this is important. Let's now move on to that key and final aspect of this video: how to go about demonstrating and employing critical analysis within your work. That way you can get those higher grades that you deserve. Let's go. How do I demonstrate critical analysis within my work? So let's first start off with some examples, 5 examples to be exact, surrounding critical analysis. So across these different examples you'll get to have an understanding and a small flavouring as to what some individuals have done in order to demonstrate critical analysis within certain abstracts of their work. So with this first one we'll go through step by step. Here you can see that the writer has provided their main point at the top. We'll indicate that in red. They have then gone on to provide an outline and a discussion surrounding the research and the observations within the research. We'll put that there in green. Moving on from their discussion and outlining of the research, they have then provided a very small elaboration. So they have made some discussion surrounding this. Now, importantly, they have used a transitioning word, although, and then they have gone on to do the following. They have gone on to argue that it's important to signify that the small male sample within that study draw their findings from a notably specific and niche selection of individuals, in this case championship standard judo practitioners. So they have made a point there to be cautious, and I'll identify that in orange. And what they have done is they've come up with a closing statement commenting upon their observations. It would therefore suggest that these conclusions possess limited generalizability and translation to other sports or athletes, which resultantly threaten external validity of the research findings. So here they're being very cautious, and they've looked at that research article, and despite their findings they've commented upon the sample size in which the research has been drawn upon and the individuals that have been utilised within that research. Okay, so on to the second example. If you would, please pause the video now, have a read through this extract from an individual's piece of work that they have submitted, read through and try and have an attempt at identifying as to whereabouts within this paragraph that they have started to employ the critical thinking skills and that critical analysis. Okay, so now you're back. Let's have a look. Let's read through and try and identify as to whereabouts the individual has started to speak and to comment critically upon their research that they've found. So at the top we can see that the writer has made a bold point, and they have provided research there to support this. We'll put that in red. The writer has then gone on to provide some narration. We'll put that in orange. The writer has then gone on to provide some evidence, commenting upon the number of athletes that was employed within a given piece of research and the findings to this research. In this case, they'd found a positive relationship being between the accrued quality of sleep and mood states of their athletes, which had a knock-on effect of the impact of performance on win-loss outcomes. So there, that actually appears to be articulated quite clearly. We'll put that into green. That's the evidence. Here we can see that they are starting to link. There is an element of synthesis here. The findings further coincide with Euler et al.'s work, which established also a positive relationship between high level finishing positions within competition and sleep quantity within a number of netball players. So there we have more supportive evidence. Now, at this point, the writer has looked at these pieces of research through the reading process, analysed them, they've broke those down and tried to identify some positives and negatives, otherwise known as merits, drawbacks or weaknesses. And here the writer has identified that the findings of both studies merit, in particularly due to their data collection being carried out within the field during periods of competition, therefore generating more ecologically valid findings. So what the writer has done there, and we'll put that within a dark blue colour, what the writer has done there has identified the method in which the research papers above, up here, have used, and have established that the fact that as the research was carried out within the field, within ecologically valid settings, their research findings would therefore be more ecologically valid, as opposed to if the research was carried out at another point within the year, such as outside of competition. And here, this really draws merit, that critical writing, to the research papers and really strengthens out their academic writing as it goes from descriptive and summary based writing to more critical. And here you can see that the writer has also provided a therefore statement to summarise off the rest of their paragraph, and we'll place that in red. Let's take a look at example number 3. So here, on your own, have a look through this example, and what I'd like you to do is to try and draw upon the points between where the writer of this section moves from discussing the piece of research and moves then into where they start to employ that critical thinking skill. If you would like to pause the video now and rejoin me in a few moments. Excellent stuff, you're back. So let's now go through and try and identify as to whereabouts the writer started to employ that critical thinking and started to question and scrutinise their research that they are using. So here we can see that they are transitioning from another paragraph, as they've started with however. They have then started to address the findings of this piece of research, and we'll place those within green. And here they are transitioning. You can see this point, this transitioning word, although they're now commenting upon the methods in which was employed within that research. So here they have stated that it is pivotal to note that the assessment, which was the yo-yo intermittent recovery test, was employed was a field-based test which was not carried out within controlled laboratory settings. It would suggest that the environment in which the recovery tests was carried out may be predisposed to other extraneous variables which could have further impacted upon the participants' performance during the assessment. Now this is really important, as they are not solely accepting the research findings, but they are scrutinising them and making inferences that the location in which the yo-yo intermittent recovery test was carried out may have been affected by variables within the environment it was carried out. Their subsequent RPE measures, which would arguably threaten internal validity of the research findings. Again, using that critical language, they are then referring back to the internal validity of the research findings, and they've also supported these inferences with literature, as you can see here. And I'll put that within green. So it's at this point where you can see that the writer has transitioned from reporting on a piece of research to really being critical and scrutinising a piece of work. And again, this isn't a bad thing. This is simply exercising one's ability to identify and to question the methods and the methodology within others' research. Let's move on to example number 4. So here you can see that there is another paragraph that has been devised, and this surrounds the profile of mood states questionnaire, otherwise known as POMS. And within this piece of research by Brotherton and others, they employed the POMS questionnaire. So I'm going to highlight that in red. However, the writer has read this research clearly, and they have identified that the POMS questionnaire that was used within this piece of research consisted of 65 questions. Now, this 65 questionnaire appears to be what's known as the first edition questionnaire, which has a greater number of questions. Okay, so I'm going to highlight that section there in green. Now what this means is that the writer has identified that there is different item questionnaires, one having 65 questions, one having 40 questions. They have there started to come to conclusions and devised inferences surrounding this, as they have moved on to suggest that therefore as the participants had to complete the POMS questionnaire during each visit to the laboratory, the frequency of its completion and its question volume may have resulted within some adverse effects, in this case potentially inaccurate results, as a result of response fatigue. The writer has also noted as an additional aspect as to response fatigue, there might also be social desirability bias also at play, which may also have had that impacting effect upon the individuals within their study and the responses that they would have provided. They have then started to close off with, while these methodological aspects need to be considered, both literature and media indicate unfavourable effects to sleep deprivation and subjective mood states. So what they've really started to hone in on is the tools which the research here have employed within their methods. In this case, they have started to talk and to discuss critically upon the questionnaire that was used. I will highlight that there in blue. So here you can really see the transitioning point between that discussive and that descriptive language to that more critical tonality. So here's the final example for you to get your teeth into. What I'd like to do is have you follow along with me and to identify where the bridging point is between the writer discussing the research that they have found and putting their case across, to the change and the transition within their tone, and as to where they have started to then think critically and started to put that forwards in their writing to demonstrate to their reader that they have established that there are other areas or aspects that may have affected the research findings or research quality. So here we can see at the top that they have started with similarly, so it would be a good guess to have that they are transitioning from another paragraph here. More acute improvements of mood state have been observed within. So here they have cased a piece of research from Brotherton and others' research, and here they are reporting on what they did. They have then made a transition here. These findings produced within the author's research, that would be the ones above, could have been potentially resultant of a methodological weakness. So now that writer is starting to address their research and think, well, there's some methodological weakness here that may have impacted upon the actual results. Were the participants requested to sustain similar nutritional intake around each of the testing conditions to uphold standardisation? So Brotherton and others have requested their research participants to maintain and uphold their current nutritional intake. That makes sense. as here you'd want to preserve standardization within that research study. But the reader has established that this methodological aspect was not actually followed up on each occasion with any means of subjective assessment of dietary recall, meaning that the authors of this research never actually followed up the dietary intakes of any of their subjects or any of their candidates. Now, the writer has acknowledged this and has then found, to support this argument, some research that's shown that sleep deprivation can impact upon ghrelin hormones, hunger hormones, and that may have actually influenced the research participants' nutritional intake and then had an indirect impact upon their mood states, on which this piece of research at the top is starting to consider. Now, it's really important, as linking back to that reading process, you need to be comfortable with going through that research, providing a first read, getting a grip and getting to grasps with the research, and then having a secondary read where you go into more depth and to be able to ask these questions: the whats, the whys, the whens. Why are they using this type of research tool? Why are they using this type of research design? Why have they not followed up on dietary recall? These are the sorts of critical questions that you'll start asking, and you'll start to use these to interrogate the research. Thank you for watching my video. If you have found the content informative, then why not leave a comment down in the comment section below. If you have got any feedback surrounding my content, or if there's anything that you'd like me to cover within future videos, go ahead and leave me a comment surrounding this. Please consider subscribing, please consider liking, and until next time, take care.